Welcome back. I want to apologize that this video is a little delayed for this week. Also want to let you know that for next week there will not be a video. I'm not speaking at church on October 11th. I'll be gone that weekend. A good friend of mine, though, Larry Bubb, will be speaking and singing at church. Larry is an old friend from days when we both lived in the greater Cincinnati area, and he's lived in California for quite a number of years and travels and speaks and sings. You can check him out online. Just do a search for Larry Bubb and you'll find him. But he'll be speaking at church, and I'm not asking him to do a video. So 1 week without a video, and then I'll be back with a new series. We're going to focus on leadership and some of the leaders in the Bible, especially. We're going to focus on some of the judges found in the book of Judges in the Old Testament. But today is the last message in this series, Questions Jesus Asked. You might remember from the first week I pointed out that during the 3.5 years that he was in ministry and what's recorded in the four Gospels, Jesus was asked over 120 questions, most of which he didn't answer with a direct answer, but responded with questions of his own. And in the course of those four Gospels, there are over 300 questions that Jesus asked people. Now, we started out with two questions that he asked the apostles from Matthew chapter 16. Who do people say the Son of Man is? And then, who do you say I am? Our second week, it was a question from the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew chapter 5. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? And in that, Jesus was challenging us to expand our capacity for love. And then last week, from Mark chapter 10, Jesus' question, what do you want me to do for you? Well, this week, we're going to look at a question that he asked one of the apostles. But for a little background, we want to go back to Luke chapter 5. We will eventually move forward then to John chapter 21. But in Luke chapter 5, there's an account of Jesus with some fishermen. And I don't know if you like fishing. These were not people who went out fishing for pleasure. It was a commercial enterprise, and they fished on the Sea of Galilee all night long. And this group of fishermen, four of them, two sets of brothers, had fished all night long, and they caught nothing. And so they were very discouraged because this was the way they made their living. But they were cleaning their nets, cleaning the boats, and Jesus showed up. And he saw the two boats there at the water's edge, and he got in one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, whom we know of as Peter, also called Simon Peter. And he asked him to put out a little from the shore. And then he sat down and he taught the people from the boat. When he had finished, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and let down the nets for a catch." And Simon answered, "Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything. But because you say so, I will let down the nets." Now understand the situation. Peter was the expert fisherman. Jesus was not. And yet Jesus was telling him, put your nets down over here. He did. And they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled their partners in the other boat to come and help them, and they came, filled both boats so full that they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, "Go away from me, Lord, I am a sinful man." For he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish. And so were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you will catch men, fisher of men." So they pulled their boats up on shore, left everything, and they followed him. Now, we're going to fast forward about 3 or 3.5 years. Jesus has been crucified. He's resurrected. The disciples have seen him. But they don't yet know what they're going to do next. They're in a holding pattern. And so what does Peter announce to the other disciples? I'm going fishing. Now, scholars have debated why in the world Peter would go do that. For me, I have a very simple answer, and it's my answer, and you can agree with it or not. But whenever you're in a holding pattern and you're not sure what's going to come next or what you're going to do next, it's very common to just go do something with which you are familiar. And that's what Peter did. He said, I'm going fishing. And the rest said, we'll go with you. Now, not all of the apostles were fishermen, but they all joined Peter. They spent the night fishing. And guess how much they caught? Nothing. Nothing at all. And so after they've spent this night fishing, they looked to the shore, and there was someone standing there. And he called out to them. And he asked, have you caught anything? And they said, no. And he said, well, throw down your net on the right side of the boat, and you'll find some. And when they did, they were unable to haul the net in because of the large number of fish. In fact, they counted them. They caught 153 fish. Now, is this reminding Peter of anything? Fished all night, caught nothing. Told to put his nets down and caught in abundance. And so they came to shore. Peter jumped out of the boat, came running to shore, and then the rest brought the boat. And of course, they found that it was Jesus. And they ate with him. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, and I kind of imagine Jesus pulling Peter aside a little bit. Maybe he did, maybe it didn't. It's just the way I see it in my mind. Peter, son of John, do you truly love me more than these? Now, scholars have, of course, debated what Jesus meant by these. And there's three possibilities, at least three that I've read about or thought about. One is, do you love me more than you love fishing? And all the accoutrements that come with fishing, the boat, the nets, the physical activity, the fish themselves. Do you love me more than you love that? So remember, Peter left that behind. As far as we know, for 3.5 years, Peter had not fished. So do you love me more than you love fishing? Possibility, Jesus might have been asking, Peter, do you love me more than you love these guys? The ones you've spent time with for these last 3.5 years, your friends, the other apostles. Or, a third possibility, Peter, do you love me more than they love me? Now, he asked this question 3 times in 2 different forms. And I think that what Jesus is really asking Peter is, over the last 3 to 3.5 years, have you grown to love me? When Peter first decided to follow Jesus, did he love Jesus? I think we can safely say no. He didn't know Jesus. He followed him simply out of obedience. And now, 3.5 years later, he's asking the simple question, do you love me? And Peter responded, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me? And Peter responded, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Take care of my sheep, Jesus said. And then a third time, he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Feed my sheep. Now, a lot has been made of the different words in this passage. When John wrote this, he used 2 different Greek words for love, agape or agapeo, and then phileo. And the first 2 times he asked Peter, do you love me? It's been translated as, do you truly love me? because of the word agape that's there. And then the third time it's translated simply as, do you love me, into English, because it's phileo. So there's two different words for love included here. There's two different words for sheep. There's two different words for caring for sheep. And that was very common with John's writing style. But the thing that you and I have to remember is Jesus didn't say these words because Jesus didn't speak in Greek. The common language for Jesus to speak in is Aramaic, and then sometimes Hebrew. Now, Hebrew has a word for love. Aramaic has several words for love. And so from this, I kind of assumed that what John was doing was he was trying to capture the essence of what Jesus was asking Peter and the essence of Peter's response. Because when it all comes down, what's to be the basis for a relationship with Jesus? To love him. And that's what Jesus was driving home for Peter through these questions. Do you love me? Which is a question that I think he's asking all of us. Do you love me? And do you love me more than these? And whatever these might be, whether these is your denominational affiliation, your political affiliation, your citizenship, those are all topics that are pretty hot topics right now. Do you love me more than you love the other people in your life? Do you love me? Because you want your relationship with Jesus to have that foundation, a foundation that grows, that matures, that deepens, but is also still very, very much simple. Do you love me? And then finally, Jesus says to Peter, follow me. Same thing he said back at the beginning, follow me. And so whenever you follow Jesus, you want to be following Jesus because you love Jesus and because you recognize Jesus loves you. Who are the beloved? Go and be the beloved.